the most important tip I could give for working outside the home, inside the home, business together, homeschooling, hobbies, is our calendar trick.
Oh, I love the calendar trick. First come, first serve.
First come, first serve on the calendar. Welcome to the Workhorse Podcast, where we dig deep into the grit, passion, and strategy behind building a successful rural business. We're your hosts.
I'm Kendall Ballantyne, owner of Central Park Farms and Marketing for Farmers.
And I'm Jessica Garza, owner of Moose Valley Ranch and founder of Market in the Mountains.
This podcast is for hardworking female farmers and rural entrepreneurs who are ready to turn their dreams into thriving businesses. From deep diving business strategies that actually work to balancing farm family life and everything in between.
We're here to give you practical tools, candid insights, and a healthy dose of community support. If you're looking for women who actually cheer you on, are willing to tell you the hard truths, and that understand how much it can throw off your day when the cows get out, you're in the right spot.
This podcast is for the doers, the women who don't stay in one spot for too long, for the workhorses.
We decided to do something just a little bit different today. I am joined not by Kendall, but instead by my husband. I call him CJ. Some people know him as Chris. I don't answer when someone asks me if they can talk to Chris. I usually say who or what. I never knew him as that. So today it is just CJ and I put together some questions. Actually, kind of caught him by surprise with this podcast recording. But I felt like after we had referenced so many times in the episodes before this about how our husbands are unicorns and how we couldn't do what we do without them, that hearing from him might be super interesting for you. Or if you're single, it might help you, I don't know, up your standards, something like that. And then in a later episode, you guys are going to be able to catch Kendall and her husband, Jay, and they'll chat a little bit more about what they deal with. Kendall and Jay work solely together, no outside employment, off the farm. And so their Central Park Farms is responsible for their entire livelihood of their whole family. CJ and I used to work together at the same police agency, don't work together now, and both of us are independently employed off the farm in different jobs. So there's some differences there. Moose Valley Ranch, we own together. I would say we run it together.
We run it together. You're the ideas. You're the brains. I'm the brawn.
I like that. I like that term. And so in all things, poor CJ here has been the sounding board,
therapist,
mental health
counselor,
labor,
visionary.
Are you the visionary?
Yeah. Well, looking ahead, like you have the idea and then I have the tendency to look ahead 10 steps, and because I'm a very cynical person. So I will look ahead 10 steps on how everything that could possibly go wrong could go wrong, and then bring that back to you. And then you do your best to curb all that. You're basically like the negative Nancy of a conversation. I am the negative.
I don't think that people listening would have expected you to say cynical. When you were like leading into that, I don't think they would have expected cynical to be what comes out of your mouth.
No, it's a mixture of the career that I've chosen, and I would say just looking outside in, it's difficult for me to look at everything with the happy rainbow, go positive, everything's going to go great. I want to prepare for things to go wrong so that we can climb that challenge, get that challenge over with, and still achieve our end goal of what it is that you've dreamed up.
Do you think that I'm like all rainbows and lollipops most of the time, or is it delusional optimism?
Delusional optimism. Absolutely. You realize that there's going to be setbacks, and you can see those, and you will have a plan to mitigate those. And then there's other stuff that you maybe didn't think about or didn't see.
Okay. So when we met and married,
yes,
we were both cops.
Yep.
In the middle of nowhere, Montana.
Yes.
10.5 hours from my family and yours from the ranch.
Yep.
And did I ever introduce the idea of this? I don't remember if I ever actually.
So you had talked about your parents' ranch. You had talked about wanting to do, at that point in time, it was really, really into weddings with like a lodge and people staying on site. Because I mean, when we got married in something like that, and that's what you wanted to do on your parents' ranch. Because we got married at that ranch in Whitefish, where we all stayed in the lodge, and there was skeet shooting, and there was horsebacking and hiking, and there was a pond that you could go paddleboard or whatever in.
That's right.
And you had told me previous to that, but at the same time, that was a vision that you had for your parents' ranch as a way for something for you to do.
Did you think, because we've been married 10 years.
Yep.
Did you think at the time that we were having those conversations that we would be here in 10 years? Did you feel the writing on the wall, or was it just like, that's cute, honey?
I believe that it was going to be longer than 10 years. I thought it was going to be something more of we were going to get started after, because neither one of us thought we were ever going to leave Montana. And we were going to do our 20 years, retire, and probably at that point in time, move back here to take over or help out with the whole ranch or half the ranch or however it was going to be planned out in succession by your parents. We expected to be back here.
You did. You fully anticipated that.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah.
Okay.
I expected to be back here, and we had talked about maybe cattle, maybe hay, maybe doing a mixture of everything with the lodge and all that. And
okay.
The original plan was to save up everything that we could while we were working in our careers in Montana, so that when we came over here, we could cash flow as much as possible without taking any debt while letting the ranch survive.
That's funny, because for me, the only thing I remember is we talked about buying a vacation cabin or a retirement home at the top of a mountain in Montana, where you could only get to it by GPS coordinates.
Yeah.
Like as soon as the kids went off to college, that they would get the coordinates if they were lucky to come home and visit at Christmas. Was that not? Anyways.
We did.
I
guess
was
Plains, Montana. We had already found the mountaintop and everything.
We had. Okay. I'm not remembering this. Like, I truly don't think I remember, which could have been the postpartum thing, because we had kids pretty quick back to back and moving home. Like, we moved home in between the boys. And then we weren't living on the ranch.
No.
Do you remember? You're laughing. Why are you already laughing?
Well, we were living on the ranch for a few months.
Well, okay. I mean, like once we got settled and
we needed space.
Yes.
So we bought a house.
Okay. So do you remember when I was first starting, Dad had just told me that I had to have articles of incorporation and insurance in order to have a wedding pay to take place on the ranch. I think that was when I started talking to you, like, what are we going to call this? Who's going to own it? You know, like those really kind of specific questions around it. What was going through your head at the time? How did you feel about that? Because we were both full-time shift work cops and 2 children, one of which I think was not even a year old.
Nope.
What did you think?
So I was excited for you, because it meant that you were now being able to pursue your dream.
But what did you think?
That's what I'm thinking, is that I'm excited for you. I'm happy for you. I knew that there was going to be a lot of work that went into it, but I was willing to do the work because that's my way of supporting you. Like, this is something that you wanted, that you kind of needed, and I couldn't do that for you. But what I could do is I could support you. And I was excited to see you succeed at this. I was excited to go out and help you in any way I could, whether that was working overtime to cash flow stuff, whether that was taking care of the kids while you while you went and did other aspects of the business to learn the business. I was just excited for you to be able to have the opportunity to pursue this dream. And knowing you, I knew you would succeed.
What did you think about it in terms of our family?
I thought it was going to be a little stressful, which it has been. There's been stressful times.
That's like the most downplayed. It's been a little stressful.
There's been times where it's been a little stressful, but I also knew that it was going to be something that, as the boys grew older, we could all do together, which we do now. I mean, we've talked, the boys are going to get involved in market this year.
Yeah, but at the time, it wasn't. I mean, we were loading up car seats, diaper bags, fruit snacks, and working on the farm school construction.
Yeah, it was many, many 20-hour days. And
I think 20 might be a little
we were
undershooting it.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt like we never were at our own house.
Yeah. thank goodness for good in-laws that would come down and snag the kids and go put them to bed for us so that we could keep working. But it's one of those things that every year you learn from the past year, so things get a little bit easier. And then because you've learned and things are a little bit easier, you can take on new aspects.
To make it hard again?
Yeah. That's what we do best. If there's one thing I will say is there's a lack of complacency. I'm not going to say content because we are content, but there's a lack of complacency. We want to do more. We want to make sure that the more that we do is good for our business, but we don't want to just be, we do 5 weddings a year in a market and that's it. No, we want to offer more for our business and for our community.
And when I tell you, I don't think the weddings was a reach. No. I think that was like the one idea from the get-go that was sort of everybody knew a wedding on the ranch would be beautiful, could be done. Yeah. But then I kind of came at you with some oddball ideas like market. And I told you, honestly, I don't even remember how I broke that idea to you.
You had the gather. Mm-hmm. You had the very first gather, and I can't remember if it was the second gather that attendees were bringing their goods in.
Okay, but I mean, when I said that very first year, I'm going to plan a market, it's going to be 4 hours long, we're going to sell vendor spots for businesses to show up.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
I thought 50-50.
Tell me, be honest. No, be real, because this podcast is about being real.
I thought 50-50, it's going to work. We're going to go through everything, and it's either going to be a smash and success, or we did something where we didn't market it enough that it wasn't a success.
You were going to put it all on me.
No, us, both.
No, you don't. Let's be real here. Stop for a minute.
You do a majority of the marketing.
You do a lot of word of mouth marketing for me. You are my biggest cheerleader out and about with people that we meet or know. You're the first to mention things, but you were just going to put it all on me if it failed. Like, must have been crappy marketing.
Yeah, I was going to put it on you and go back and, because of that cynical mind of mine, go back and look at everything that you and I both did and see where we could change it, because try it again.
So you did not, is it a fair statement to say that you weren't all in? You weren't like, not all in the sense of like, obviously you always do whatever I ask or need or it calls for, but all in the sense of like, you didn't see the vision and you weren't like, this is going to be, I think I was just like, this is going to be amazing. You did not have that?
I could see the vision and I could see that it would be amazing.
If it worked.
If it worked. My holdup was based on friendships, people we know. There's not a lot of people that want to drive an hour out here to do anything, really. I mean,
right.
Unless you're a hunter, that's about all the people you know that are coming out here to drive an hour. So that was my one hesitation was, I know that it'll, based on vendors, based on everything that we put into it, I knew it was going to be awesome. It was, are people going to be willing to come out? And it was very much the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come.
So you weren't conspiring with my dad to like have a plan to pick me up off the floor when...
Oh, absolutely. I had a plan.
Were you and Dad talking?
No.
Okay. So because you don't know this, CJ is really close with my parents, I would say.
Yes.
Sometimes, and not sometimes, all the times, I'm like, they love him more than they love me. They would, if there ever was the worst of the worst, they would pick CJ over me, I think. Truly. They love you.
Yeah, they do.
And you love them.
Yes.
And I feel like you guys don't have the child-parent relationship that I struggle with. And so they're just like, he's the best. He's the best. CJ needs something. What does CJ need? And then they look at me and they're like, is she crazy? Were you and Dad talking like behind the scenes when we were playing? Was there ever like a car side chat in the driveway?
There was a few chats where he's like, I just don't understand this. And there was times where I'm like, I don't understand it either, but I know it's what she wants. And because I don't understand it, I'm a very blunt person. So I'll just ask you what you need. If I don't understand it, and I like to say all the time, I'm not a mind reader. Mm-hmm. So if I don't understand it and I don't see your vision, I'm going to ask you, what is it that you need me to do? And I know that can drive you nuts, but
yeah, I struggle because I want you to see the vision. I think I want you sometimes to be the visionary. Like sometimes I've asked you multiple times, like, what do you want out of this? What do you want to create from this? And you've always told me it's like you don't have a single driving passion when it comes to this business. You just want to see me succeed.
Yep.
And want us not to have to pay a massive land payment after we retire. You wanted it to pay for itself.
Yep.
But you don't have like a goal.
No.
Necessarily.
No.
Do you think that's weird? For some, do you think that might be weird in couples? That I'm the driver and you're not?
Yeah, I could see that being weird. It's definitely a shakeup of, I don't know the big term, but the marriage psychology, marriage norm, yeah.
Does it ever bother you?
Not at all, because there's times where I am the leader, I am the visionary, I am doing these things. And there's times where you are. And I think that's what makes us a great team, is that at any given time, either one of us can go, okay, hey, this isn't, I'm not leading on this. I need to follow his lead, or I need to follow her lead.
Mm-hmm.
And we can take a step back and, quite frankly, I mean, do as we're told. Like, I need you to do this. Okay, it's going to get done.
Do you ever get angry about what I'm asking from you? Do you ever like get resentful and angry?
I wouldn't say angry and resentful. There's times where I'm annoyed because, as we both know, we both work a ton of hours, and there's times where I don't want to do Moose Valley stuff. I legitimately want to pull a Lester and watch NCIS for 12 hours and sit in my recliner because I'm just tired. And for me, it's a constant battle of, I mean, I'm going to call it laziness, because there's times where I just want to be lazy and I don't want to do stuff. And it's the battle of, I don't have time to be lazy. This really does need to be get done. It's, you and I have always said we work better under pressure. When there's a crisis, oh yeah, we're on it. But if I have 6 months to build a chicken coop, guess what? Chicken coop's going to get built in 2 days.
At the very end of the 6 months.
Yep.
So you're a procrastinator too.
Oh, absolutely.
But recently we were driving and we had this whole conversation going. In fact, I think I was texting Kendall. We were talking about neurodivergence and ADHD, and you're already laughing.
Yep.
I was really resonating with the things that she was saying.
About how you have ADHD?
But to be fair, I would never have said I had ADHD. Would you have said that?
Absolutely.
Like if someone asked you.
Yeah, I would have said she's very driven with ADHD. And it's, you don't have the ADHD where it's debilitating. It's just bouncing around. It's get this project 80% done, get this project 75% done, come back to the 80% done, get it to 95, go back to and start a whole nother project. And I think that's part of why your back end of market stuff goes so well, is because you have the ability to bounce around between all of the stuff. And you can keep in your head like which portion is 70% done, which portion's 30% done, and you can pick up right where you left off because you have that ability to bounce around between all this stuff.
How do you mentally feel around that? How do you mentally? I don't even know. I'm so deep in market prep. I don't know that I've ever. Don't come at me, people that are listening, because I love him and I will take care of him if he ever needs it. But I don't know that I've ever stopped during market prep and been like, mental health check-in, babe. How are you dealing with all of this?
There's the cliche answer of, oh man, I'm fine. And most of the time it is, because after the first one, I knew what to expect going on. And so I very much am legitimately fine. I'm tired, and that's just because
it doesn't bother you.
No, it's just.
How does nothing bother you? I think it might be the single biggest thing that bothers me about you is that nothing seems to bother you.
I don't have an answer for that. It's probably because it's not resulting in death or disfigurement or any of that, and therefore it's not a problem.
It just doesn't bother you.
Yeah, it'll get done when it gets done.
Just hearing that, the visceral rage that I feel hearing that, because in my mind, everything is heavy and important and on a timeline. Do you think that that's one of the biggest frictions we have in our relationship?
Absolutely.
How do you cope with that?
I realize that it's important to you. And if it's important to you, then I need to make it important to me. So going back to the unbothered thing, if I'm unbothered and it's bothering you, like I need this done by here, by now, then as a supporting spouse, a loving husband, then that's important to me because it's important to you. It's just like, when just this past year, I went to South Dakota and you knew that was important to me. So you took every step you could. And even when we ran into unforeseen circumstances on the trip.
Oh, you mean when you guys broke down in the middle of nowhere, Montana?
Yep.
Without a way to get either 2 or 4?
Yeah.
And decided that you were going to just rent something to continue on because nothing was going to stop this hunting trip?
Yep. And even then you were supportive about it. And you were calling old friends of ours from Montana like, hey, I still know people in that area. Let me call them to come pick you up to take you to the airport to get a rental car.
Well, listen, you being stranded in South Dakota for an unknown period of time was not going to work.
Yes, correct. And I think that is why we succeed, is because when it's important to you, it's important to me. And when it's important to me, it's important to you.
That's fair. If you ever listen to the podcast and you're sitting there thinking, man, I wish I could just hop on a call with one of us, we wanted you to know that you can do just that. We've got you covered from an activist in your Google reviews all the way to a tough situation with a market vendor. Kendall and I both have one-on-one coaching calls available through our website. These are perfect if you want direct feedback and teaching on your specific business needs, assistance navigating a difficult time, or just need a second set of eyes on your business. Our direct booking links are in the show notes of today's episode. So you obviously didn't know when we were dating that you were going to marry an entrepreneur.
Correct.
To be fair, he was married before. Not a secret. I'm not a fan. I feel like that's kind of a requisite for a second wife to say no. But I did not know her and I wasn't around you guys when you were married. But she wasn't an entrepreneur either.
No.
And you were, though, raised with a mom who was an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Your mom had her own businesses.
Yep.
Your mom provided for the whole family with her businesses, right?
Yes.
Like your dad was a stay-at-home dad. How do you think you handle, what are the best tips that you could give to a man who's married to a woman that maybe wasn't an entrepreneur? Maybe she's had her career, she's had babies, now she decides she wants to start her own thing or do her own thing. Like, what advice would you give to a guy in that situation?
Look ahead. Look ahead, whether it's a few hours, a few days. Look ahead and try and figure out what it is that you need to do, whether it's to support the wife with her business. I don't know if it's build a display wall. If I'm very lucky in the sense that my wife is very handy. If your wife's not very handy, build her a display wall. Have it ready for her so that she can do mock-ups. If she wants to build it herself, then and you have children, what is it that the kids are going to need to do for 2-4 hours while she's doing that? And have a plan to do that, because speaking from experience, it's very hard to execute your plans when you're having to take a 15-minute break to do a feeding, or the kids need something every 15 minutes. They're coming in, hey, we need this. And if you can get a block of time in which your wife can just dedicate herself to the business and she can get what she needs done, I personally think that's a huge help. I don't know. Is that a huge help?
Oh, I cannot tell you how much I count myself as lucky that you never hesitated to take the kids. You never hesitated to take the next feeding, take the next wake up. You never hesitate to take them on a hike. If I'm head down and in something, you're the first one to be like, hey, you know that maybe you're not the one recording the podcast episode. You see how it fits in with our business. And then you are the first to step up and say, but I can take him for a 4-wheeler ride.
Yep. And if you look ahead there, it might not necessarily be helping with the business, but it might be just helping with general life, like something that may be hanging overhead that you don't know, and you just get it done. And now, because that's off of her plate, she can go focus on something else. And I think that's like the single biggest thing, is not waiting to be told what you need to do and just seeing the little things that you guys either do together in general or that she normally does herself, and getting it done so that they can then focus on their business.
And what if he was struggling? Like, what if a husband of a friend came to you and just said, man, I'm really struggling with, for lack of a better word, my wife creating this. How have you handled it? Have you ever been asked that at work? Actually, that, like, full stop. Yeah, let's go back there. Have you ever had a guy come up to you and just been like, man, how in the heck are you letting her do that?
Not once.
Never?
Never.
You run with some pretty masculine, male-dominated kind of guys.
Yep.
And they've never once questioned your dedication to, like, helping build this dream that's very clearly kind of mine.
No, and I believe the reason nobody's ever questioned me on that is because they just see a successful business, because we are a successful business.
Right.
And
so you're just saying they don't see it as you letting me do something.
No.
They see you very much as a partnership.
Yes.
What if, though, one of our friends wanted to start a business and you sat down with the guy, maybe we're having dinner, drinks, and he's just like, man, I don't know about this. This seems kind of crazy. I don't think it's going to work. It's taking time away from our family. What would you say to him?
I would say to him, if the roles were reversed, how do you think she would support you?
That's deep.
And a majority of people would go, oh, yeah, that's a valid point. And I would say precisely. And based on experience, I would, yeah, it's going to be hard. I'm not going to say it's going to, yeah, there's times where it has sucked.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be hard. It is going to suck a little bit. But at the same token, at the end of the day, if your significant other is truly, truly passionate about it, the least you can do for them is be supportive in it. Embrace the suck, so to speak. Do what you need to do for them to have the chance to succeed. Have every able opportunity to succeed.
And I'm going to ask this at the risk of, to be fair, we talked about a few questions. I did not throw all of these at you. So full disclaimer, I've not even heard the answer to this. And how I am going to word this maybe a little different. What are some of the ways that you manage me? Now, I say that, and I want to preface it with manage me in the sense that I know, like, I have a tendency to spin. Something will happen and I will get stuck on it. And it's almost like your wheels are in mud and they're spinning but going nowhere, but shit is flying every direction. And so what do you think you do to manage me?
I'm very blunt with you. I'm very much we need to get one thing accomplished. Pick it. Let's get that accomplished. And sometimes it's not us accomplishing it together. It's you need to get this done. Kids and I are going to go get it done.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other times where, I'll be frank, I manipulate you.
Okay.
I do. And it's because I know how to talk to you, and I know what pressure points to push to get you to accomplish something. It's you guys just had the workhorse retreat, and we were up till 10:30 at night packing you, right?
Yeah.
10:30, 11 o'clock. And it was very much the way I manipulated you is like, I said, hey, if you don't get this done tonight, we're going to have to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to get it done, to get you on the road on time.
Okay.
And it was very much, and her and I are both not super early morning people. We don't really like that.
I don't know. I feel like we've become early morning people I just don't think we're an anytime day of people because of shift work and being day shift one week, night shift the next week, swing shift, pull a 36-hour shift. I don't know that there's ever one, but I would agree. I think that you do a good job of manipulating me, and manipulating in the most healthy way possible. Yeah. Because if you were to flat out tell me to do something,
oh no,
how would that go?
That would be I'm not doing that. You can't make me.
Because I'm also like obscenely stubborn.
Yes.
But so you do a really good job, I think, of also manipulating me back around to family time. When I get too fixated, you'll say something. Yeah. You don't hesitate to. No. I don't feel, do you?
No, absolutely not. I have been told by you and other people that I am a brutally honest person. If I see something, I say it. Mm-hmm. I don't sugarcoat it. I don't beat around the bush. It's just hey,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I observed and this is what I think you need to do.
So what do you think in our relationship have been some of the things that we sort of figured out as we went with building a business that we just had to do to make things work? So it's never been an option for us to not be together. We've said that from the beginning.
Yes.
Like, that's just not an option. We figure it out. It's always figure outable.
Yes.
What do you think, though, as we built the business, as the business became much busier, bigger and bigger projects we've taken on, what do you think are some of the things that we've done that are really good to protect that sort of like base marriage relationship?
The number one thing that we did is we became better at communicating. It very much became you would tell me what you need, not in a physical aspect, like, hey, I need you to go do this, but you would tell me emotionally what you would need, mentally what you would need. And I was the same way. I would say, hey, I need a day to go fishing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm burnt out. I need a day to recharge. I need to go fishing. And then I'll be back tomorrow. And because of our ability to not just communicate what we needed, but also after that was done, respect that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that has saved us in numerous arguments that have been headed off like, oh, hey, okay, I heard him. I listened to him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to respect that and we'll get back at it tomorrow.
I think that's how we show that we really care about each other too, because when someone is maybe, it's not brave anymore in our relationship because it's just the way we are.
Yeah.
But when someone is strong enough to point blank tell you to your face, this is what I need in this moment, even knowing that it's inconvenient or, I don't know, maybe not what they want, respecting that then builds this sort of level of trust that it's a safe place for us to say those things, which I think happened pretty quick with the law enforcement background.
Yeah.
Like, we couldn't come home from a really bad shift to a screaming kid and worry about how the other person was going to take it when we were like, we need 30 minutes to ourselves. It was a bad crash. It was a bad call. I'm angry. Like, there was never, I think you sort of hear the stereotypical cops' wives and cops and how like they try to wall off from their partner or their wife doesn't understand when they come home why they can't just scoop the kids up. I think we did have a really good understanding of that from having worked in the same stressful field. But I would say that the most important tip I could give for working outside the home, inside the home, business together, homeschooling, hobbies, because we both still have our hobbies. We haven't let those go. I mean, they're definitely less often than they were, but we will still have them, is our calendar trick.
Oh, I love the calendar trick. First come, first serve. First
come, first serve on the calendar. So we share a calendar app. We use Cozy. You can use any type of calendar. I'm like, they all talk to each other now. Yep. But we use a family calendar app. And we were really quickly learning, I think it was right as things picked up.
Yeah.
We're right as things really started to take off and still working and this and that, was that we would make assumptions about open time on the calendar and then find that the other one was really upset when you make plans, you took overtime, I booked this, and they in their head had something on the calendar. And now it is first come, first serve.
Yep.
Whoever's on the calendar first wins.
Yep.
And people don't, I think, understand this when I try to describe it to them. But if I could tell you that sometimes it is like a sprint to grab our phones first, shoving each other out of the way to get to our phones on the countertop because we're both talking about the same weekend that we want to do something. First one on the calendar wins. And it is like Hunger Games to get to the phone, to get it in the calendar first. Because if I put, say, the retreat on the calendar first, when you go to look at that, I have to adjust my work schedule accordingly. I'm in charge of making sure that the kids are taken care of. I can't plan, I don't know, a coyote hunting trip or something like that. You just can't. And there's no quibble about it, with the exception of like if a super cool opportunity came along or if like you got mandatoried in, obviously someone gets sick.
Yeah.
There is that. But I mean, we don't often ask each other to move things. But we had to kind of train ourselves. And I remember the first time I did not put mine on the calendar first and you held firm. You were like, nope, I was on the calendar first. We said we were going to do this. And I was so mad that I couldn't do whatever it was that I wanted to do.
But you, at the same token, you were mad, but you respected it.
Well, yeah, because they didn't want you to do it to me.
That set the boundary. And I think that's why it's always worked for us, because we set that boundary. And even though it angers us, we still honor it.
Well, I bet, like, how do you not do that in a relationship where you really care about each other?
I agree.
I think it's hilarious now because friends will ask, oh, do you want to go do something? Or someone will call to book something. And if you have an extra overtime shift or a hunting trip or something like that, I move it. And they just don't even seem to kind of understand that it's like non-negotiable. Mm-hmm. But it had to be, because we make decisions really quickly. Like we tend to commit really quickly, and we don't want to be someone that doesn't follow through.
Yep. And it was also a way to be respectful to others when we are making that. It's let me double check, because the last thing you want to do is say, yeah, we'll do that. And then you get home 2 days later, you look at the calendar and go, oh man, I can't do that. Now we got to call and cancel.
Yeah, I hate doing that.
Yeah.
I love that we have made it our thing and that we honor that. And I love that you also will put things on the calendar now, like family time. Like if you really want to make sure that I don't drop a one-on-one in, or I don't know, don't say yes to an invite for an event or something, you actually will put on the calendar family dinner or birthday trip or different things like that.
Yep.
But I can't underestimate, and I know I said I wanted to talk to you about like what you would say to men trying to support their wife working, homeschooling, and building a business. But I cannot walk away from this conversation without taking a minute to recognize how much of the mental load that you take off of me. And I think that can be a really sticky point for another woman comparing themselves to where you are, what you're dealing with, or what's going on in your home life. I cannot tell you how much CJ takes off of me on the daily. I can't tell you the last time that I have cleaned a toilet. I can't tell you the last time I've done dishes. I can't tell you the last time that I had to figure out what to do with the kids while I was doing something because he wasn't capable of it. That just doesn't happen.
No.
If I'm gone for something, I don't even worry about what's happening with the kids. I don't have to think about it because I know that you, as the parent there, will make whatever arrangements you need to make.
But I think that's the key word there, me as a parent. And we had this conversation when we decided to homeschool our kids, and we were talking about it, and it was you were thanking me for doing so much, and I reminded you that you didn't make that decision. We made the decision. Mm-hmm. So therefore, it's just as much on me as it is on you. And I think that can be said the same with business. I'm assuming that spouses have had a conversation, that they're in agreement to start the business, run the business, do this. And by doing that, you guys decided to do this together, and every day is going to be a little bit different, and every day it's going to be a different responsibility. And it's not going to be the same every time, but it's both of your jobs to do it. It's 50-50. And we do a really good job of splitting it 50-50. There are days where I do stuff for Moose Valley Ranch, and you're making delicious sourdough and teaching kids fractions and doing stuff like that.
I hate fractions. I hate teaching fractions. I love making sourdough. I hate teaching fractions.
But that's what I'm saying is there are days, you're right, about the dishes and stuff. And not that you haven't done them. You do them. You do all that stuff. You help pick up. You're better at picking up clutter than I am at picking up clutter.
I mean, I think I see the clutter. In your defense, you are such a man in that sense. Yeah. You and our two little boys just walk right past anything. If it's on a surface, it's invisible.
But that's the deal, is we both know each other's strengths. We both know each other's weaknesses. And we strive to complement each other. And we strive to make it 50-50.
I think, too, we're really competitive with each other. Okay, so funny story is back in the day when we were both troopers of the Highway Patrol, we were in the same detachment. And that meant that during firearms training or EVOC, which is the Emergency Vehicle Operations course, we would be against each other. Like, you're ranked, your scores, everyone sees your scores and your detachment, like, it's ranked.
Yep.
And so we were competing against each other as husband and wife. It got brutal sometimes. I mean, it got brutal.
There was very many choice words being thrown at each other.
Yes. And so we're really, really competitive with each other. I almost think it becomes like a competition in our marriage of who can do more for the other person. Like you will. So when I travel, he knows that when I come home, I'm usually pretty beat. Whatever I'm doing usually takes a lot out of me. And he knows this. And so he will try to have the house as clean as possible.
Man cleaned.
Man clean. That's a good term. So he will try to have the house as clean as possible for me, even if he's been busy working and taking care of the kids and doing their lessons because I am gone. He will try to have the house clean for me. I know this now because it's become a pattern. So then when I leave, before I even leave now, it's a competition for me to try to get the house as clean as possible so that you have less to do while I'm gone. And then you're like, but that's my thing. So we compete against each other to do more.
Yes.
For each other.
Yes.
In that like service to each other.
Yes.
I don't know if that's like the hack that I was hoping it would be for anyone else. Okay. You're raising 2 little boys. By default, you are dad.
Yep.
Not by default. I mean, you are their dad.
Yeah.
But by default, you're kind of the one that is setting the example for them as dad.
Yes.
What are you hoping your kids learn from you?
To listen, and not just verbally, but watch body language. Look at your significant other or your friends or whoever, and be able to tell when something's wrong or when something needs to be done and just do it. When they turn 18 and they go out in the world, I want them to succeed. And part of succeeding is not waiting to be told what to do. Taking initiative, whether hopefully right, not just wrong, but hopefully right. Taking initiative and doing something. And I think one of the biggest aspects of that is being selfless. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this because, I know my friend likes carrot cake and I found the best carrot cake cupcakes. So I got a 4-pack so that we could have dinner together and have carrot cake cupcakes. Or I know my wife, my girlfriend, I know that she really, really likes this certain book and the author is going to be signing books. So I got us tickets to a book signing. It's doing things for others. And yeah, it'll probably benefit you in some way, shape, or form. It'll benefit you, but that's not why you're doing it. You're doing it so that it benefits others and being selfless.
You are one of the most selfless men that I know. You will kill yourself for anyone else. For yourself, not so much, but for anyone else, you will do anything. I mean, I can't tell you listening, those of you listening, I can't tell you how many times he has rescued a friend of mine, left in the middle of the night to pull someone out of the ditch, shown up to help a buddy, stayed late helping me, literally broke his back for me and us and our dreams, for our kids, one of the hardest workers in the room. And I truly credit Moose Valley Ranch, the workhorse, Market in the Mountains, Gather even, to having a really strong relationship with you.
Yeah.
I would not have been able to do the things that I do if we were fractured, if we were unhealthy. That's just not a reality, I think, of building a business in and with your spouse that I would have been able to accomplish, especially not living on the same property, essentially, right next to it, with your in-laws, with the in-law relationship. I struggle more with my parents than you struggle with my parents. I mean, but truly, like, you can laugh all you want, but I just really also, as people are listening to this, want them to keep in mind as we wrap this up that your struggles, our struggles will not be the same as theirs, and how much a marriage impacts what you're capable of doing.
I will say I have to consistently set my ego aside.
Whoa. What does that mean?
It goes back to like the lazy day type thing, right? It's not all about me. It doesn't have to be done my way. It just needs to be done. And we say it all the time, right? There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. There's 1,000 ways to do this correctly. And just because we have a task here in a few weeks, we're going to have to load up all those farm tables.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I will probably have 2 different ideas on how to load those farm tables. And
Yes.
what matters is the farm tables get loaded. Doesn't matter that I'm right about how we load them. Doesn't matter that you're right about how we load them. All that matters is that we get them loaded.
What he's saying in a very kind way is that I tend to be uber controlling and have specific ways that I like things done, or that in my head, that's how it's done. And he does a very good job of just not fighting me on that.
So, yeah, you set your ego aside and you just get it done.
On that note, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming and talking with me. Be curious to hear if you guys have feedback, if you have questions. Do you think we could get you to come back?
Probably.
What would you think about doing an episode with Jay?
That could get very entertaining.
Okay, well, you heard it here. If you have questions, thoughts, you can drop them. He reads everything. He was our first listener, our first reviewer, the love of my life, to sound super cheesy. And he stepped in today with almost no notice to record this episode. So we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We know there are only so many hours in the day, so we're honored you choose to spend some of your time with us. If you're one of the many rural women entrepreneurs who are struggling to find true community and step-by-step support that actually moves the needle in your business, join our signature group coaching program, the Workhorse Collective. You can find more information in the show notes of today's episode.
Together, we've set out to support and connect with women in rural business. If you found this episode valuable, we'd love it if you'd share with another woman in your circle. It would also be incredibly helpful if you would take a moment to leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and we'll catch you next time on the Workhorse Podcast.